Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Courtney. I'm AIST's Board Services Administrator. Today will be the fourth installment of our talent acquisition sessions. This is an ongoing series that's focused on strengthening the talent pipeline across the steel industry and bringing together HR professionals, university partners, educators, and industry leaders to share ideas and learn from one another. For this session, we're focusing on how to attract talent to rural and industrial work locations, because I know recruiting for these positions can often come with unique challenges, but can also present unique opportunities. So our goal today is to leave you with practical ideas that you can take back to your own organizations while also creating an opportunity to learn from one another's experiences. Before we get started, I have just a couple housekeeping items to cover. First, today's webinar is being recorded and will be made available to all registrants after the session today, and also will be uploaded onto AIST's website and potentially our YouTube page. We'll also be using an app called Slido throughout today's webinar for live polls and audience questions. If you're joining through a Zoom desktop or mobile app, you should have had the Slido app appear and prompt you to join right when you logged in. But if you're in a web browser, Slido may not appear for you. So I put the link to join us into the meeting chat today, and you'll simply have to click the link and launch Slido in a new browser tab. So you'll need to kind of toggle between your Zoom and your Slido to participate in the polls and submit questions as needed. I'd also like to remind everyone that AIST is committed to complying with all applicable antitrust laws. So please keep today's discussion focused on sharing ideas, experiences, best practices, and avoid discussing competitively sensitive topics such as pricing, production, customers, or any other information that might raise antitrust concerns. And finally, AIST is dedicated to providing a professional, welcoming, and respectful environment for all participants. We maintain a zero tolerance policy for harassment of any kind and ask that anyone engaged in today's discussion to be courteous and respectful of that matter. Thanks in advance for helping keep the conversation positive and productive for everybody. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chloe Myers from Steel Dynamics to walk us through today's agenda.
Hi, Courtney. Thank you so much. Appreciate AIST making this call possible today. My name is Chloe Myers. I work at Steel Dynamics corporate headquartered in Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I work in corporate human resources. I coordinate our internship program, which is near and dear to rural work locations and early talent initiatives. So we'll be talking through some of those items today. We do have 190 interns per year at Steel Dynamics across all of our divisions in the United States and Mexico. Also, I facilitate with our professional hiring, everything from a metallurgical engineer to a pilot to a regional sales manager. So quite a variety of roles that we're filling out of our team here at the corporate office. Have been a frequent flyer at AIST events for a number of years now. I attend the UIRR twice a year and MS&T as well. So really excited to be here. I'm a third generation steel employee, so really passionate about bringing new individuals into the steel industry. And with that, Kristen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Chloe. My name is Kristen Perkins. I am the Talent Acquisition Manager here at Nucor Corporation at our corporate office in Charlotte, North Carolina. And my role and responsibility involves leading enterprise recruiting strategy, as well as coordinating our internship programs and developmental programs. We have over 5 national conferences that we attend, as well as 12 different universities. That amounts to over 185 different events that we attend on a yearly basis. I also oversee 330 interns across the enterprise as well. And I'm also actively involved in AIST and the UIR, just like Chloe is. And I invest in recruiting, top talent to build strong, high-performing teams. And now I'm going to turn it over to Shannon.
Thanks, Kristen, and welcome everyone. Glad to be a part of today's session. My name is Shannon Johnson-Kehoe. I am the Director of Organizational Development for SSAB Americas. I am located at the Iowa plant and been with the steel industry really my whole career. 18 years with SSAB, and I really began as in operations as a EH&S technician, which was then called Environmental Health and Safety Technician. Moved through that through most of my career, and then over to HR, into the organizational development role. So I am very active in a lot of associations, Steel Manufacturers Association for many years, obviously AAST, AISI, so all of the metal associations I typically am a part of in some form or fashion. Previously served on Don B. Daly Safety Grant Committee. Some of you may be familiar with that. And currently the chapter president for Riverbend Fame, which you are all about to hear in just a little while here. So I'll dive more into that next.
So for those of you who are new to joining these calls, this all started when actually at AIST Tech, an annual event that typically the three of us attend, we all sat down and we got together and said, wow, there are some really good parts of the University Industry Relations Roundtable where we have an opportunity to discuss recruiting and talent initiatives with individuals that usually don't have an opportunity to come together outside of the UIRR. And so we decided that we really wanted to take the opportunity to form a new talent acquisition group, if you will, so we can talk through some of the things that the best practices that our companies have in order to help one another. The long-term goal of these sessions really is not just to help our companies as individuals, but to help the steel industry as a whole. We know that individuals in the steel industry, due to different reasons, relocation, wanting to move back to family, whatever it may be, may find themselves moving between different steel companies throughout their career. The biggest challenge that we face as an industry is getting individuals into this industry to start with. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which company they begin with as long as they stay in the industry. So we have, through feedback over the last couple sessions, opted to host quarterly virtual roundtables. We do have small discussions at the UIRR pertaining to these calls. And then our goal is to share the best practices gathered at both the UIRR and during these calls so that you can leverage that information at your own companies. As you can see here, we have had a number of companies share some of their best practices around things like today's topic, rural recruiting, and we hope to see this group of companies grow over the next talent acquisition sessions. Okay, so today our topic is recruiting, specifically attracting, converting, and retaining talent in rural work locations, which is a problem that many of our companies face, especially as the number of individuals in our recruiting pool dwindles, but our need for talent grows as an industry. So with that, we actually gathered this topic from our last call. This was the most requested item, which is why we have decided to tackle this today. And we have a new guest, Shannon, who's joined us to share some of her best practices, which is really exciting. So we continue to bring new individuals into the fold as they find topics that they have some information on and are open to sharing. So throughout the call today, if you find that you have some information that you would like to share, I would encourage you to please take yourself off mute, share, put something in the chat, or even if you're interested in sharing some best practices around a topic that we seem to be having troubles with, please don't hesitate to reach out and become a guest yourself. Today, we will be discussing internships and internship conversions as the #1 rural recruiting strategy. Moving into how do we sell relocation as a tool, not just a barrier. Then once we get the individuals to work locations that are rural, how do we keep them there, whether it's an intern or a full-time hire? And then last but not least, AIST is kind enough to share some of their resources that they have had and developed over the last couple of years in terms of talent programs for students that may help you with some of that retention. So moving into our first poll, one of the things that, Steel Dynamics, SSAB, Nucor, we often hear around relocation is it's short-term thinking, right? People think, I might relocate for the short term, but I'm not going to stay there forever. It's the middle of nowhere. I'm not going to have anyone to talk to. It's not a big enough plant. So why would I go there? Because I'm not going to have career growth opportunities. These are just some of the things, the misconceptions that we are hearing at our companies. And we would really like to hear what are some of the misconceptions that you're hearing? Because the more that we understand the issue, the better we're able to confront that and find best practices to solve that throughout today's call. So if you want to access your Slido either through your chat here, there's a link to join, or in the top right-hand corner of your Zoom, there is also an open button where you can open that within the Zoom app itself. If you would like to go ahead and answer that Slido question so we could see some of your thoughts, that would be great. Okay, I'm seeing quite a few answers here, so that's great. For those of you who were not able to join the Slido so far, we do have a word cloud going of some thoughts around what people are facing at their different companies in terms of issues around relocation. A couple key terms here: low pay. That's a common misconception we hear. You know, they think a rural location is going to pay less than something in a bigger city. Let's see. Too remote, long commute to family, nothing to do. Yep, we're going to talk about that. Workplace culture, we're going to talk about that as well. Work environment, that comes up. We'll have some items around that as well. And lower pay. Okay, it seems to be a common thing with lower pay. So we do have an item on that. I'll be sure to really dive into the compensation piece. So we have closed the voting. We'll go ahead and move on to the next topic. All right, Kristen, would you like to start with internships as a rural recruiting strategy?
Thank you, Chloe. So I'll give you a testimonial from Nucor about internships as the #1 rural talent strategy. So at Nucor, we believe internships are one of the most effective ways to build our future workforce. Because many of our divisions, as you may know, are located in small rural communities, internships give the opportunity to experience more than just the job. They get to see us from a cultural standpoint firsthand, meet our teammates, and they learn about what it's like to live, work in the communities that we all call home. We don't look at internships as a short-term hiring need. We look at them at the beginning of a relationship. It's an opportunity for students to discover whether Nucor is the right fit for them, or it's an opportunity for us to invest in their future teammates who share some of the same values that we have at Nucor. When interns leave with a positive experience, they're much more likely to come back after graduation, already familiar with the culture, our expectations, and the opportunities available to them. So as we look at the next slide, why internships matter. When we look at this slide, there are several reasons internships continue to be one of our strongest recruiting strategies. First, they help reduce uncertainty that comes from relocating, especially to those rural communities that we're talking about. Students have the opportunity to experience both from a job and the community before they make that long-term commitment to that area. Internships also allow students to build relationships with teammates and leaders across the divisions. And also we talk about the culture. It's built on trust, teamwork, and giving those people and giving the opportunities and responsibilities early in their careers. Experiencing the firsthand helps students understand what makes each company and each one of our companies a little bit different and unique. But from our perspective, interns also allow us to get to know students beyond what's on their resume, which can also be a challenge for us. We see how they approach challenges, work with others, and also contribute with the team. When those experiences are positive and we see them to be positive, then transition from intern to full-time opportunities become much more natural. And that's exactly the type of long-term teammate and talent pipeline that we're working to build. So as you can see on the next slide, when we talk about relocation support for interns, we recognize that accepting an internship also means relocating somewhere completely new and somewhere that they're not familiar with and in rural areas. One of the best things that we can do is remove as many barriers as possible for the students before they ever arrive. That starts with clear communication during the recruiting process. We want students to understand what support is available, and so they can also make informed decisions on their offer that they're presented. When we're providing, whether we're providing housing assistance, helping with the travel expenses, or connecting interns with affordable local housing options, those resources allow the students, for us, to focus on learning instead of worrying about those logistics. So that is a key priority for us. With all of our internships, I told you we had 330 of those. We provide housing for them, which is unique, but also takes that stress off of the intern for those 2 to 3 months that they're with us. We've also partnered with colleges and local communities to identify housing options, because that is something that we recently had done, was to provide housing. But we've also looked at how can it be affordable, and how can we look at options around those areas that aren't being utilized during that off season of those college campuses, which also lets them experience the community in which we are located in as well. And then as we look to the next slide, when we creating a strong internship experience. So once the interns accept the offer, our focus shifts from recruiting to creating an experience they'll remember. So one of the first things that we've implemented is a welcome call for all of our interns before they even arrive on site. And this welcome call is an enterprise-wide welcome call where we invite and introduce leaders of our management and leaderships team. We talk about the new core cultures, the values, and explain what the interns can expect through the internship over the summer, as well as connect them with other internships and the specific divisions that they're going to be working at. It's a simple step that goes a long way that we have found for interns, and something that they remember. And it helps everyone feel connected before even they get on site and their first day with us. And then we think about what do they do once they're on site? We want interns to feel like they're a part of the team. They're not just observers. We're intentional about connecting them with mentors and having experienced teammates who can answer questions, provide guidance, and help them understand what a career in manufacturing looks like and at Nucor. We also encourage the interns to build relationships with one another, but it goes beyond that. Whether they're working at a division or attending networking events or community service events throughout the summer, making those peer connections become an important piece of the overall aspect and experience of an internship for us. And throughout the internship, we as Nucor teammates provide regular communication through check-ins and feedback. Those discussions help interns continue to develop professionally while also giving them valuable insight on how they can improve the program for us, as well as how can we continue to provide the knowledge that they need to take far beyond the walls of Nucor. And then lastly, before the internship wraps up, we want to make sure that the internships understand the opportunities that may exist after graduation. So before they leave Nucor at the end of their internship, we look at what those opportunities, if they choose to pursue a opportunity at Nucor, letting them know where they stand within our pipeline and with our channels of future full-time opportunities. And I know Chloe will go into that a little bit more, or as a return intern. But overall, our goal isn't just to provide a great summer experience. It's to build lasting relationships with talented students who hope to one day become future teammates and will hopefully remain in the steel industry and in manufacturing. So let me turn this over to Chloe.
Thanks, Kristen. Yeah, I can't agree more. One of the biggest initiatives I've had at Steel Dynamics in the last couple of years has been exactly that last topic you covered, which is getting managers, supervisors, and just your overall leaders at the company on board with offering an intern, either for a full-time or returning internship, 6 to 9 months ahead of time. I know that can sound scary, and for a lot of us who, internships were not even paid. You took an internship because you wanted opportunity. Those days are long gone, right? So to try to get people on board with now we need to be offering interns 6 to 9 months ahead of time, that's definitely an area where we have to have influence. We have to be convincing, and we have to show the statistics behind the fact that it is now necessary to do that. So appreciate you covering that. So for part 2, we really wanted to give you some specific examples of what these topics look like carried out in organizations. So I'm going to be showing you some examples of how at Steel Dynamics we use relocation as a selling tool, not just a barrier, when we're offering interns and full-time employees. Okay. Great. So as we are looking at relocation for our employees, one of the biggest things, and we're going to have images for all of this, is showing the total rewards package for our compensation. So as you saw from the word cloud earlier, the biggest battle that companies are facing on this call is that students and entry-level professionals have the misconception that if you're located in Arkansas or Kansas or Iowa, middle of nowhere as they call it, they're going to make less money than an individual who moves to Pittsburgh or a well-populated area. When we know as professionals on the call, that isn't necessarily the case most of the time. So what we do at Steel Dynamics is we make something called an all-in worksheet. And we are very decentralized as a company. So this all-in worksheet may look very different depending on which location you're at. But at SDI, we have a bonus-driven structure for our compensation, where individuals may earn a production, a conversion, or a return on assets-based bonus, depending on what role you're in. And that can make up to 50% of your pay as a professional at the company, or even more if you work in operations. So because of that, we have individuals who come back to us when we make a job offer and say, I'm not comfortable accepting that because I don't understand it. So the more we can remove confusion around total rewards through things like an all-in worksheet, the more likely those entry-level professionals who are scared to ask questions about benefits and those interns who may not understand the full potential of that job offer are to relocate to your rural work location. The next thing would be career acceleration opportunities. So we know that stories explain concepts best, especially when you're talking to an individual who doesn't have a lot of work experience in the steel industry. So the way that we combat that at SDI is we try to showcase examples of career acceleration to our interns and entry-level professionals who are hesitating to move to our rural work locations and put them in the shoes of someone who did it before them. So a great example of this is we have a mill in Columbia City, Indiana, smaller town, just about 30 minutes outside of Fort Wayne, where we're headquartered. And when we are trying to recruit metallurgical professionals to that mill, we often have individuals who hesitate to move to that area or even Butler, Indiana, which is just about 45 minutes north of here, because they don't understand the area and they don't know whether or not they're going to have an opportunity to move up in what they could consider to be a smaller steel mill. And so one thing I always showcase is, hey, John Doe, our quality manager at our structure and rail division, Columbia City, Indiana, started out as an intern. Let me connect you with him and have you talk to him about his career path through the company and how he became one of the youngest quality managers at our company starting from internship level. So really giving them that connection, letting them see their path firsthand, not just telling them to trust you on career acceleration goes a long way. Next would be career stability. So this isn't true for all of us, but for those that it is true for, really showcasing why not laying off is important to a young professional is something that we wouldn't expect we need to do. And this has been a learning curve for me myself. When I tell individuals in our company or interns who are interested in taking it to the next step and accepting a full-time role, and I tell them that SDI has a practice of not laying off in our non-union steel mills, they don't value it when they're a young professional. And the reason for it is they have not been through an economic downturn to really understand the value of what I would consider a benefit to them. So really putting them in contact, again, with an individual who maybe has experience with that, explaining firsthand why it's so great that Steel Dynamics didn't lay off at our non-union steel mills when 2008 happened. Structured relocation, I think that Kristen covered this very well, making sure that it's transparent. What can they expect? If they're an intern, are we going to pay for their housing? How will they get that benefit? And then if they're a full-time employee, what does that relocation package look like? Are they going to receive a lump sum? Are they going to receive a travel agent? Explaining that clearly. And then last but not least, community integration. So making sure that when they get here, they feel connected, they feel like they have a place in this community and that they're no longer just a stranger. So as you can see on your screen here, we have two examples of some of the items I just talked about. The first one being an all-in worksheet. And for antitrust regulations, let me just start by saying these are not real numbers, nor are the calculations of our bonuses. This is highly fabricated just for example here. But this is an example of an all-in worksheet that I personally use and I recommend to our managers and leaders at Steel Dynamics because it does a really nice job of showcasing what their all-in compensation or total rewards will look like if they were to accept the position. When we're talking to young professionals, most of the time they are looking at things like 401k or vesting periods or stock in the short term. They do not see the long-term benefit that they're going to reap or even think about the fact that some of these benefits that we offer in the steel industry could lead to early retirement. So if you can put that on a piece of paper, even if they don't understand it, they can take it to their, most likely their parent or a guardian or someone they know who they trust who can explain it to them. If we rely on communicating those things verbally, they will get lost in translation when it makes it to the next person that they're probably going to ask for advice from. So when I'm talking about these items, I really want to reframe relocation not as something that we need to apologize and overcome, but really something that we can sell. This really is a selling point, that a company is able to provide some of these great long-term benefits. It's not that they don't get everything in a base. That's not a negative, it's a positive. Next up, so using those previous interns turned managers or leaders in the company as examples. So you can see here, this is actually an internship advertisement that I've aired in AIST's magazine. To showcase that at Steel Dynamics, our interns really do become leaders in the company. And if I ever have an intern who has questions about what is a career path going to look like for me in the steel industry, I can refer back to some of these items and even connect them with the individuals in these pictures to say, these are real people that you will get to work with every day. And that could be you yourself. Next up, so we talked a little bit about, Kristen did a great job of covering, showcasing the benefits of the area and make them feel connected to the community. So especially for our interns who probably have not done a lot of research on the area or maybe don't know what resources to use when relocating, we try to create a calendar of events for them and invite them to different things like volunteer opportunities or networking events that urges them or pushes them towards integrating into that community, even if maybe they're an introvert who wouldn't naturally do that themselves. So you can see here, this is the brief calendar of just some of the events we've done for Northeast Indiana interns. We did an intern networking event where they all got to meet each other, make friends, and then we brought them to a steelmaking class where our two quality managers here in Northeast Indiana, both on the flat roll side and the long product side, presented about the steelmaking process at SDI. And the benefit of something like that is they see the greater picture, or in Nucor's terms, right? They see that they're part of something bigger than themselves, and they better understand their part in the steelmaking process. Because one of the biggest things that young professionals say they want to see now is they want to feel like they're contributing to something that matters. Okay, so that's one of the ways that we're able to accomplish that. So we would really like to know, what are some of the tools that you use at your company that you sell to either interns or entry-level professionals who are struggling with relocating to a new rural work location? And if you could use the Slido again in your chat or the top right hand of your screen to enter some of those, we'd really like to see those. And if you're open to it, we would be happy to have you share over audio right now if you would like to unmute as well. Okay, so I see profit sharing is one of them. Do you give profit sharing to your interns, your full-time employees, both? Full-time employees. Okay, great. And tuition reimbursement. So this one I've seen go both ways. Some individuals will, I should say companies, will give students tuition reimbursement only if they're currently full-time employees. Does anyone offer tuition reimbursement to students? And if so, would you be open to providing some details on how you administer that, who's eligible, how you make that a best practice? Okay. Visa and sponsorship opportunities, that's certainly a hot topic as of late. Yeah, that's a really great one. Full-time teammates who are past interns be a part of recruiting events and career fairs. At Steel Dynamics, and we've shared this in the past, the way that we handle recruiting is certainly unique for our industry. So we do not have a large human resources team at Steel Dynamics. And so the way that we handle recruiting is we make a master list of all of the career fairs that are available in the majors that we recruit across the United States, where either we typically travel or are located next to our work locations. And we actually send that out to our engineers, managers, and supervisors, and they sign up to recruit. So we manage that process, those logistics here. However, the actual recruiting and the storytelling is actually managed by our division. So it certainly allows us to keep our decentralized structure and lets the students hear from the people they really want to talk to, right? I see a comment. We offer unlimited tuition reimbursement for full-time employees as long as the program is related to the business. It's a selling point for anyone looking to finish a degree. Yeah, that's great. And Amy, I'm curious, do you cap what they can use per year, or is it just unlimited altogether? Okay, awesome. Well, I think these are some pretty great things. We have closed the voting and we will move on to the next topic. So we do have a breakout room this session just to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to learn and share best practices that we can all take away and have some actionable items at the end of this call. So our question for you in today's breakout room are, what are your best practices for creating stickiness or retention for those interns and entry-level professionals that you do hire into your rural work locations? Not only how do you get them there, but how do you keep them there is our question. So we will be breaking out into different groups, and this question will be shared within your group.
So I want to talk a little bit about what's called FAME. Some of you may have heard of it in passing. Some of you may have seen past presentations, or maybe even you're a part of the chapter. But it does feed right into kind of the stickiness of keeping our team members at our locations. So FAME stands for Federation for Advanced Manufacturing Education. So it's our catchy little phrase for what that is. And it's not something that we just made up here at SSAB. It's actually a very well-established nationwide model, which originated at the Toyota plants kind of over in the Southeast. They had such success with it, they handed it over to the National Association of Manufacturers, and their development arm there called the Manufacturing Institute really has rolled this out to anybody that's open to establishing a chapter. So we know it has success rates as far as retention for team members who go through this program. So we have some research backing it. But what it is basically you select students and they're going to go to school, get an associate's degree, and get hands-on experience in between their classwork. So there's sponsoring employers that come together to create the chapter. But the learning that they get at their college partner that is part of the associate's degree, it's going to connect directly to their manufacturing work. So they go to school, they learn about AC, DC, solid states, drives, whatever that looks like. And then the next day they're going to work and they're actually doing it, right? Hands-on application. So it's a really successful learning model, but it also creates that strong pipeline for us. We have struggles, as I'm sure a lot of you do, with the maintenance positions. They're a highly sought after position, and it's a very skilled trade. So that in our area here, it's called the Quad Cities area between Iowa and Illinois. That's one of our high priority jobs that have been identified. Of not only SSAB has that gap that's not only existent now, but forthcoming, recognizing the number of retirements and the need for local manufacturers. So this really helps to fill that talent gap. It's very well structured, very well supported from a resource standpoint, and essentially it's creating global best. So we're not just getting warm bodies and putting them into roles. We are making them, right? We are massaging them, we are mentoring them, and it has that proven retention success because of all those elements. So Riverbend FAME is the new chapter between Iowa and Illinois in the Quad City region, where we have 8 regional employers who've partnered together with Eastern Iowa Community College as well as the Chamber of Commerce. And this chapter has come together. It actually just started in January of this year. So our first cohort begins this fall. So we're really excited about that. It is employer led. So this isn't like FAME USA is leading, they're doing all of this, developing everything. It is employer led. And for our chapter, SSAB is currently the chair. So we're very engaged in the development process and making sure this really is a successful program for our region. So like I said before, students work and attend class. So our schedule is Monday they go to work, Tuesday they go to class, Wednesday they're going to work, Thursday class. So it's a nice balance, right, where they're having a full day of class and then having that hands-on application of learning. So at the end of this program, it's a 2-year program, they will have an associate's degree, and a lot of the companies in the chapter actually are paying for that. So Chloe, I know you talked about tuition reimbursement. That is a part of this, at least on SSAB side within the chapter. So at the end of it, for an SSAB FAME student, they come out after the 2 years, debt-free, associate's degree, 2 years of experience, and now they're going to land a full-time job. The retention rate for this program is the first year, it's in the 90s. And then I think it's after 2 to 3 years, it's in the upper 80s, like 88% retention. So that's 4 years that we know 88% of students that are going through this nationwide are going to remain within, the chapter companies. So just not getting too far into the weeds with this, but just the focus areas on why this program is such a success. It has really 3 main areas. It's a holistic approach to developing our team member. So you have your technical classes, right? Your associate's degree. That's going to be all the things and nuts and bolts of how you do your daily tasks, right? And then you have your lean manufacturing, which isn't typical of associate's degrees, but really heavy emphasis on safety. They have a safety slogan that they create themselves that they have to say before every time they introduce themselves. And that's something that they come up with that they need to focus on. 5S, which I know we're very familiar with in our industry, lean manufacturing, problem solving, machine reliability. And then the other piece that really completes this holistic picture is professional behaviors. So this is the soft skill side of things that not all individuals are taught, right? You have to show up for work. Sounds silly, right? But we do have to reiterate that with interns or, young professionals. Diligence, initiative, how to dress professionally, tuck your shirt in. So FAME students have a logoed shirt that says FAME. They have to tuck it in. They have to wear a belt. They have to wear pants. Like they are graded essentially on their professional appearance. So they're taught how to hold themselves. They're taught posture. They're taught eye contact, how to give a firm handshake. So that's how we're really creating that global best. And I know this is a successful program also because we have our sister mill in Mobile, Alabama. They actually have students for the last few years in the FAME program, and their managers, they're almost fighting over the candidates because they come out global best, right? We're almost making leadership our next line of leadership. So this really helps us turn, whether that's an internship, co-op, whatever that looks like, into a long-term career path. So that's where that stickiness comes in. It's building early connections. So like Kristen and Chloe talked about earlier, it's that connection. And even we talked about it in our breakout room of that connection's important. And I can speak to that personally. I'm a relocation. I started born and raised in Wisconsin, and I was recruited down to Iowa, kind of middle of nowhere. And I've been with the company 18 years. So part of that for me was connection. I had a great group of ladies that took me under their wing when I was, in my early 20s and invited me to all these different networking events, and I felt connected. right? And I think that is super important. And I'm glad to hear that kind of throughout this presentation today, because it is. So also it reduces uncertainty, right? A lot of people that are young in their career, you don't know what you're getting into, right? So this kind of is that partnership where we work with the college to establish that schedule. And we're actually creating the curriculum to the manufacturing needs for that schedule as well. So we worked and said, okay, yes, we're going to do this class this semester, and then next semester we'll do this and build on that. So it's very clear, and it's eliminating that uncertainty, like what is my life going to look like when I take this job. So it helps in that regard. And then also just with the retention piece, there is a mentor that is required piece of this program. So every single FAME student at every company has to have a mentor. There's also those professional expectations and a lot of employer involvement from recruiting. We have a signing day coming up here in a few weeks where we've invited plant managers, the managers of the students, even the media. We've invited some government bodies to make it a big deal, right? Give some positive recognition of, hey, you are walking into an amazing program. Congratulations. And, just make a to-do about it and make people feel like, wow, I am really a part of something. And then they do have that community as they move through the program, not only at your member company, but with all of the other students that are in that cohort, because they all go through the classes together. So they're growing, they're learning, they're building the team, just the dynamic. So they have kind of that support throughout the program. And it just, at the end of the day, it supports that stickiness because you're seeing a future with the company. You know that at the end of this program, you're going to be going on shift. You're going to be getting put into a position should everything work out, as long as they show up for work and pass their classes and all of those things, they're going to be pretty much guaranteed a job upon graduation. So we're really excited about it. But again, there's a lot more that goes into this, and there is a website called Fame USA. If anybody's interested, you can always, of course, reach out to me. But otherwise, go to that website and check it out for yourself.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Shannon. Yeah, I feel like I need to sign to the FAME program now. We have a FAME program here in Northeast Indiana as well. All the same sentiments. It's been a great talent pipeline, growing talent in areas where you can't otherwise recruit it. All right, Courtney.
Yep. Thanks, Chloe. And as we were preparing this session today, we found a lot of synergy between, intern to young professional working full time in the industry. And so, with that, I wanted to give you some resources that AIST can provide that you can keep in your toolbox as you hire those young professionals into the workforce within your mill or within your company to hopefully help them stay there and to help them build a community. Um, the first being all of their first years of membership are free if they're 30 years old or younger. So if you have any new hires that are, new to the industry, have never been a member of AIST before as a student or in their professional career, they get the first year of membership for free and half off of their dues until they turn 21. So that's a good way to cut costs either for them or for your company, and to also give them that membership. In addition to that, we also provide them with networking opportunities through our local member chapters, and they can attend events such as plant tours, technical presentations, golf outings, dinner meetings, depending on the location of your mill. And they can expand their network that way and apply for leadership roles within the member chapters. So that could be something like the social media chair of the Pittsburgh chapter or the engagement chair of the Midwest chapter, things like that. They can add those things to their resumes and get that exposure within the industry in their local area. They can also connect with their peers through our Young Professional Membership Committee. In case you weren't aware, we do have a membership committee that's focused just on YPs, and it was newly formed to help us spread the word to ensure that your company is part of the conversation amongst the YPs in the industry. And we host quarterly calls with that group where they exchange ideas, develop leadership skills. We host on-site programming at AIST Tech for our YPs, and they can just build relationships amongst each other, and they also get exposure to our senior leaders during some of these events as well. In addition, we also offer continuous learning for not just YPs, but for all members, of course. But this is something that hopefully you can push to them. Specifically, our Making, Shaping, and Treating of Steel course, I think, would be a really good selection for new hires within your company. And it just helps them, again, get access to a plant tour. They can network at these events, and then, of course, get the valuable knowledge that is taught over the course of 2 to 4 days, depending on the course. And last but not least, we also have 50% off registration at AIS Tech for all of our YPs. So again, that would be anybody that's 30 years old or younger. And that's regardless of if they've been before or not, so they can have access to our largest conference that we host annually. And it gives them the opportunity to learn from industry experts, explore the latest technologies on the show floor, and again, that networking opportunity with thousands of steel professionals every year. So these are just a couple of the key items I wanted to bring up for young professionals that you can give as resources to your new hires, or even your interns can take advantage of some of these resources as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Courtney, for sharing those. For those of you on the call, we want to thank you for joining. Feel free to pop open the chat, put in any questions, or you can unmute yourself. One last thing as everyone exits, if you could please answer this poll, it is anonymous. We're always looking for ways to improve these calls and learn more about your best practices. We would like to know what you'd be interested in speaking on, or if you'd like to be a guest speaker, and then any questions that you had. Thanks, everyone.
This was a great webinar. Thank you for setting this up. As we're a growing company, we've been supplying to the steel industry for over 53 years now, small family-run business. One of the things I agree with Chloe, strongly agree that whether it's a young professional, a new hire, an intern, someone who's had several years in a career, one of the things it's mentioned is they definitely want to feel like they're positively contributing to a company, as well as being included in any kind of training that's offered. In addition to this, it's always a good idea to encourage any kind of, you mentioned earlier, like networking opportunities or volunteer team building. However, I think with some of these, including the trainings and things that could potentially be outside the working location or hours, what are some ideas for those who have had challenges on maybe needing to get so much work done during a shift or the day, or some people are just really busy, they have young kids, they can't make weekend events? If anyone has any comments, I greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's certainly something that we combat here as well. First, before I share on behalf of Steel Dynamics, I would love to hear if anyone from the audience has some best practices on that. Well, at Steel Dynamics, typically what we're doing is we're trying to make those types of networking events here in Northeast Indiana, where we're headquartered, central for as many locations as we can, so we can get as many birds as one stone as possible. So one way we do that is we do a networking event for just about an hour or two at the beginning of the summer, and we do that on a Friday at 7 p.m. at a bowling alley that's central to all of our locations here in Northeast Indiana. That way, let's say the person coordinating that needed to bring their kids or something like that. It's kid friendly. We're not typically inviting supervisors or letting the interns bring their friends, but that's a per company decision, of course. So if that's something that works well for you, then maybe that's a way that you could combat that issue. We have done some volunteer opportunities on the weekends that already coincide with some of the events our company is offering, where other full-time employees will be there with their families already. So for example, Steel Dynamics, we sponsored a 4th of July parade here in Fort Wayne for 250 years, and we had all sorts of SDI employees there, so I made that opportunity available to the interns as well. Also, many other volunteer opportunities available to them that were a little more time consuming, but those are just some easy options for how we've leveraged people's time to the best of our ability. Any other examples from the audience or any other questions?
Thanks, Chloe. Yeah, that was really helpful. So combining with other local, even community thinks is a good idea if people are already going to be there. And then definitely limiting any kind of time commitment for people that have a busy schedule is also helpful.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for the question. Well, thank you, everyone. We look forward to seeing you on the next call. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good afternoon.